a certain amount, has invested towards your subscription, and you owe it to them and you owe it to yourself to make sure that you follow that dollar and make it work for you. What I've learned in my Toastmasters journey is to be very deliberate in terms of what I do. If you go into your pathways, you log in, you see the number of projects. Let me give an example that your level 1 has got 5 projects. You need to go on your laptop or take your notebook and write to say, I'm going to do these 5 projects and which clubs am I going to present? It won't suffice just to say, I'm going to wait for a slot during my home club meetings, because there are quite a number of Toastmasters who are also vying for those slots. So you have to scan around, you talk to your vice president education, talk to your area director to say, which other clubs can I go and do my projects? And you give yourself a target and say, right now we are in September and I need to do 5 projects for me to finish my level 1. I'm going to give myself up to the end of November. And then you deliberately book slots where you can be able to present your projects. Remember, you are setting goals, and goals have to be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, and time-bound. So you have to be deliberate about it. You can't just leave it to chance and say, as and when I get an opportunity to do my project, I'll do it. Just like in any facet of your life, if you are going to school, you actually set yourself a target and say, I'm going to complete this semester by this time. I'm going to write my final exam by this time. Same with your Toastmasters journey. It won't happen by accident. You have to be deliberate. Have a schedule. Do an Excel spreadsheet of the number of projects that you need to do per level and the targeted completion dates. And you go a step further and actually book for slots at various clubs. We have got an array of clubs within your area, within your division, within your district. You can go across. Right now in Southern Africa, we are privileged that we've got 2 distinct districts, 74 and 129. You are able to cut across and go and do your projects. So key lesson number 1, what you put in is what you get out. You have to be deliberate. Number 2, imagine as a member of a corporate club, your company decides to take you for a conference, maybe in Cape Town or in Durban or in PE or in Victoria Falls, whichever space they choose. As you travel for that conference, you get into the venue and there are 1,000 delegates that are busy networking. They are in deep conversation. What will be your reaction? Are you the kind of person that will shrink into a corner and feel sorry for yourself and feel so intimidated by the crowd that is in front of you? Or you're that kind of person who will scan the room frantically and look for a familiar face, and when you see Terry or Jocelyn or Manuel, you are so relieved and you rush to them and say, oh, I was lost in this sea of people. Thank God I found you. And you stick to that comfort zone. Or you are that kind of person that will look for the most intimidating group and join in the conversation and start networking and opening new avenues for yourself, creating new networks. You never know which door might open. Maybe you're going there to sell your products. Your next $1 million deal could be in that conversation that you're shying away from. Your next ticket to your next destination could be within that network. So you have to be deliberate. And what I've learned in Toastmasters, you learn the art of networking because you develop the confidence that you have. I've attended a lot of conferences representing the companies that I've worked with, and I find it quite easy to seamlessly fit into any conversation because of the confidence that I've been able to develop as a Toastmaster. And I'm also deliberate in terms of when I go to the conferences. I normally scan the list of delegates, and if I've got business objectives or networking objectives, I actually deliberately sit and say, for breakfast, I'm going to be sitting with Amanda and Pamela, and we have conversations, memorable conversations, and I leave them my contact details. They are part of my network. For lunch, I'm going to sit with Viola and Kuba, and we'll have deep conversations. For dinner, I'm going to sit with Harriet, Nompumelelo, with Alois, and we have deep conversations. If it's a 3-day conference, by the time that I leave that conference, I'm well networked. I'm rich in terms of my networks because I've been deliberate about it. Where did I learn all those skills? I learned them in Toastmasters. So fellow Toastmasters, let's follow that dollar that someone has invested or that you are investing. I remember I attended a function in Harare, Zimbabwe, where the American embassy team was actually part of it. It was a charitable initiative. I walked up to them and I had a memorable conversation where I shared with them my passion in terms of community engagement, in terms of meeting the needs of those that are less privileged. The next day when I got to the office, I saw an email from them and they said, can you give us a 1-page profile? They gave me a form to complete. And a couple of months later, I got a letter that was signed by Hillary Clinton, the state secretary of the USA. And she was inviting me for a leadership program in USA for 6 weeks, all expenses paid. If I track back, why did this happen? It's because I joined Toastmasters. When I joined Toastmasters, I learned networking skills. When I learned networking skills, I applied them when I met these US embassy officials. And in 2012, I spent 6 weeks learning different aspects of community development. I was a guest of the State Department. I was a guest of the United States government for 6 solid weeks. We went across Washington, D.C., Buffalo, New York, Atlanta, Georgia. And one of my icons is the late Martin Luther King Jr. And I was able to visit his bedroom and his house. I was able to stand where he delivered that speech. I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will grow up in a state where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. It was an iconic moment for me. There were 23 of us from different nations across the world. While I was within that group, I networked with a team from Romania and UK, Ghana. And a year later, after coming back to Zimbabwe, I was off to Romania on a leadership training again. Why? I chose to open my mouth when I was in that network of 23 different people from across the world. But again, let me rewind. How did I network with the US Embassy? How did I network with the Romanians? It's because I was a member of Toastmasters and I learned the skills of networking. They say your network is your net worth. Right now, yesterday, I was on radio representing our company, 10-minute show, where I was talking about a conference that is happening in South Africa next week. And as our company, we did not pay a cent for that 10-minute on prime time. This was between 8:30 and 8:40 in the morning on one of the biggest radio stations in Zimbabwe, ZFM. How did I achieve that? It's because of the networks that I've built. I just phoned one of my colleagues who works there and said, let's have a win-win situation. We've got a promo that we are running and we want to give prizes to your listeners, but in return, give us 10 minutes as a brand so that we can market ourselves. Just a simple phone call. But how did I meet that person? I didn't grow up with them. We never went to school together. It was simply because of the skills that I learned in Toastmasters. So fellow Toastmasters, we are sitting on a gold mine as Toastmasters. Open your eyes, log on to that website and launch your pathways. Do those projects. They'll create a lot of value for you. You are sitting on a gold mine. Your company has invested in you. They need a return on investment, and you owe it to yourself. I remember my previous job, I was called for an interview, and a week earlier, one of my projects was handling a tough interview. And I got one of the most intimidating. I always joke with her that, she's very tough. Linda Chimanikiri at DTM here in Zimbabwe. And I said, as part of our meeting, can you do a 20-minute interview for an executive position? And I want you to ask intense questions. And it was a normal meeting. So she did the mock interview for 20 minutes, and she was really going for it, asking me tough questions. But guess what? 2 weeks later, I was in a real-life interview, and I simply applied the skills I've learned in Toastmasters. I went a step further and said to the HR team before I got there, I want a projector because I'm going to do a PowerPoint. Unprecedented. I've never had anyone going to an interview and demanding that they do a PowerPoint presentation. So I got there, we did 5 minutes pleasantries, getting to know each other, and I just did a strategic audit of that company and said, if I come in, these are the issues that are at hand and that need to be addressed, and this is how I'm going to address them. So at the end of the day, it was them that were asking some questions, and I was directing the narrative. It was like I was conducting the interview myself. But where did I learn those skills? Pathways. And what I love about pathways, when I joined Toastmasters, we all had a generic path, the competent communicator and competent leader pathway, where we did identical 10 projects. But right now, if you are starting out on your leadership journey, maybe or you have just been appointed to lead a team of 10 and you have never led anyone, what you simply do is you log on to your leadership development pathway. Maybe you're a seasoned leader, Yolanda, and you are leading a team of 100 people. How do you get them motivated? Guess what? The solution is there. Motivational strategies in Toastmasters. Maybe your job expects you to be innovative and come up with new products and ways of doing things. There's innovative planning. Maybe you represent your company at different forums. There's presentation skills or presentation mastery. You're a professional speaker. Humorous speaking is there. So there's everything. It's tailor-made. What you simply need to do is to be deliberate about it. The next skill that I've learned in Toastmasters is chairing meetings. I'm sure all of you can relate where you've gone to a meeting and the chair loves their voice. They love speaking and they go on and on and on. I remember, I had a scenario like that where I knew that my Mondays would be blocked and I couldn't do anything else because someone was chairing that meeting. They would start at 9 and 1 p.m. they're still speaking. Then after 1 p.m. we then start presenting our own updates in that meeting. But what I've learned in Toastmasters is you learn the art of chairing a meeting and managing time. You learn the art of allowing contributions to flow. Time management is an essential skill you learn in Toastmasters. And at different workspaces that I've worked, people always volunteer me to chair meetings because they know that I'm precise and I can get the most out of it and I can engage. Vital skill that you learn in Toastmasters. Show of hands, how many of us here chair meetings? Maybe you can just use the emojis, do a thumbs up or raise your hand if you chair meetings in your workspace, or you lead people, or is there, or you lead a group of people, a department. Awesome, I'm seeing the thumbs up, right? Presentation skills is another vital skill that you need. If you're attending an interview, you're attending a meeting, and it comes to you, it's your turn to present your update. That's impromptu speaking. Where do you learn those skills? You learn in Toastmasters. You attend a meeting where you are the speaker. That's Toastmasters for you. And you learn to think on your feet. I remember when I was representing a particular brand, a bank, we had sponsored a conference in Victoria Falls, and I was supposed to speak for 30 minutes from 12:30 to 1, just before people had lunch. Unfortunately, I'm sure you can relate where you go to the conferences and they go overboard in terms of time because they are not seasoned speakers. Someone is given 20 minutes and they speak for 1.5 hours and they eat into other people's time. And that's exactly what happened. At exactly 6 minutes to 1, I was called on stage and lunch was at 1. I had a PowerPoint presentation. I prepared for a 30-minute presentation. But guess what? My challenge was to compress that speech into 5 minutes. In the audience was my CEO. In the audience were members of the media. There were ministers. There were CEOs of other companies. What do you do confronted with a scenario where you couldn't say, oh, no, can you reschedule my speech? I can't do it in 30 minutes, in 5 minutes, because I had scheduled for 30 minutes. But guess what? Toastmasters, through the table topic session, teaches you to think on your feet. So I just went up that stage. Remember, I was representing a bank, but because I've changed banks, I'm going to use an illustration of the bank that I'm working for now. You know, I'm part of the Nedbank team now. So I basically went up that stage and said, I used what we call in Toastmasters vocal variety because people were busy on their phones and they were preparing to go to lunch. So I used vocal variety. In a high-pitched voice, I looked at them and said, today, I'm not speaking to you in your capacities as CEOs, ministers, or captains of industry. I'm speaking to you in your individual capacity. Then I took a pause. Where did I learn about the art of pausing? Toastmasters. I saw people putting down their gadgets, their laptops, their phones, their iPads, their tablets, and they looked upstage and said, who is this young man who is daring us? And then the moment they engaged with me, I proceeded. Imagine you are driving home from this conference in your motor vehicle, financed through Nedbank Asset Finance, and insured by Old Mutual, one of our partners. As you get home, you realize that 10 years ago, through the mortgage finance facility, you bought your house, financed by Nedbank. As you get into the house, the prepaid electricity meter starts flashing, indicating that you are low on prepaid electricity. You smile, you pull out your phone and you let your fingers do the talking while you purchase your prepaid electricity via the Nedbank mobile app. As you sit down to watch your favorite team, Arsenal, beating Manchester United, sorry, Manchester United fans, the message comes on to say your DSTV subscription is about to expire. Again, you smile and you let your fingers do the talking while you renew your subscription. Your daughter runs to you and says, Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor. You smile because you know they are covered through the educational program that is driven by Nedbank. And one of those AVPOP funeral adverts pops up on your TV and you smile because you know that through the Nedbank funeral cash plan, your family is covered. You remember you have got a trip to South Africa the next day. Hashtag no cash needed because you have got the Nedbank MasterCard. Need I say more? This is the kind of life that you experience when you do business with Nedbank. Thank you for your time. Bon appetit. And then I walked off stage. In exactly 5 minutes. 1 o'clock, people were going to lunch. I got a standing ovation from ministers, from the CEOs. Almost the entire room got on its feet. And that lunch, I was so busy networking. People were coming and saying, that was amazing. How do you do it? And even my CEO, he couldn't believe it. Then I told him, you know what? It's because of Toastmasters. Guess what? That's how that company started a Toastmasters Club. He says, I want you in my office next Monday, and I want to know about this Toastmasters. I want us to start a club, and I want our managers to benefit from this. I've never seen what I've seen today. It's because of Toastmasters. So we are sitting on a gold mine. Be deliberate. Remember my earlier illustration in case you joined lot? If this teaspoon is your amount of input into Toastmasters, don't expect this output. Be deliberate. My last example before we go into a discussion is your meetings as corporate. I know we've got busy schedules. There is no hard and fast rule that your meeting has to be 2 hours. At Sell the Sizzle, we do our meetings. Viola is here in 1 hour. We say it, we are selling the sizzle in 1 hour. And even if you are scheduled for 2 hours and your meeting finishes early, dismiss the people. Let my people go. Don't hold people by unnecessary discussions. Let the people go. They will appreciate you for saving them time. I've seen meetings where 20 minutes before the end, the meetings are done, and you see the president of the VPE trying to squeeze in a lot of items that were not on the agenda. Let my people go. Please. They will love you for it. They will love you for it. Let me share my screen. There's an interesting meeting that we had. You don't have to have prepared speeches all the time. Let me just share my screen. Sorry, let me just, let me recast again. Sorry about that technical glitch. Okay. Let me open the presentation again. Confirm you can see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great.
Yes.
This is a meeting that we had on the 13th of April 2023 at Sell the Sizzle. So the theme was, what's in a picture? A picture can tell a story and convey an emotion, mood, and messages, even evoke understanding that words can't express. So that was the theme for our meeting. And so we'd flight a picture and then pick on a Toastmaster to speak about that particular person in the picture or what they stood for. This was Martin Luther King Jr. Then we're challenging Toastmasters as well. Can you market Toastmasters in 2 to 3 minutes? And then with the iconic Madiba, what key lessons did you learn from his life? Then we had Mother Teresa, what key lessons did you learn from her as well? And then the other meeting was, we put a bit of humor into it. Those from the old school, you'd relate with these two characters, Tom and Jerry. What lessons do you learn from these two? I think the speaker was speaking about enduring friendship, even if you rub each other the wrong way. Those were some of the key lessons from these characters. They would always be at each other's throat, but on a good day, they'll be best of friends. Then the iconic eagle, King of the Jungle. And this was my favorite one, where we got one of the, I think it was someone attending for the first time to sing one song from this iconic singer, MJ, and then do an election campaign speech from this icon. Yes, we can. You remember that campaign? And then social media, a curse or a blessing. And that was our meeting for that particular day, one of the best meetings that I've attended. So don't do the normal usual, people get bored. I remember when I was a member of Executive Club in Harare, we once had a meeting where we started in reverse. So we started off with evaluations. Let's say Terry was scheduled to speak and Jocelyn was the evaluator. Of course, Jocelyn would know the project that Terry is undertaking. So what Jocelyn would say is, okay, Terry, I loved your opening statement. You were so engaging, and I loved your vocal variety, and I loved your use of gestures. But this is before Terry even spoke. But the hilarious part would come now that Terry, when she was delivering a presentation, would now be conscious to say, okay, Jocelyn said my opening was powerful. She said I was good in terms of my vocal variety. I was good in terms of using gestures. So she would be deliberate. I mean, that was a humorous meeting. So what I'm just saying is, let's bring a lot of excitement into our meetings. There are no hard and fast rules that a meeting has to take a certain protocol. So find creative ways, table topic session only, have a debate session, have an inter-club contest. There's nothing that stops clubs within the same area or other areas to have a debate where you pick a topic and you debate about it. What are you doing? You are developing your impromptu speaking. So let's bring a lot of excitement into our meetings. And you find that people would love to come back. So it's vital. What you put in is critical. You have to be deliberate in terms of planning. I remember when I became a distinguished Toastmaster, I had actually about 10 projects left for me to beat the clock before the end of the Toastmasters year. And I had to sit down and come up with a plan. I actually titled it a roadmap to becoming a distinguished Toastmaster. I knew the projects that I was supposed to do. And right now we are privileged because you can attend online. That time, there were no online meetings. So I had to physically go to about 5, 6 different clubs. I remember one week I attended 3 meetings. I think it was on a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday, because I needed to acquire that accolade as a distinguished Toastmaster. I had to be deliberate. You learn the art of chairing meetings, time management. You learn the art of networking, making the most of your networks. And you learn to think on your feet and develop presentation skills. Fellow Toastmasters, there's so much that we can learn from Toastmasters, but it's what you put in. If you're struggling, get a mentor who can be able to challenge you, you're accountable to, and you can walk the journey together. Thank you so much for this time. Right now, I'll take some questions and then we can interact. Over to you, Lesedi, to coordinate the Q&A.
Thank you, Joel. And I think all of us can agree that there's so much value in Toastmasters. That's why we joined Toastmasters in the first place. So I did actually learn a lot from you. But I also want to encourage, please, if you do have a question, yes, Yolanda. Let's start with Yolanda. Yolanda, you can unmute, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you so much for that amazing presentation. You actually answered most of my questions through your presentation. I just have one that's so I'm the club president of our corporate club, right? Our employer has about 600 employees, and our employer also pays for Toastmasters. But our challenge is that our colleagues are not taking up Toastmasters. Like, we only have, I think, about 17 members. And what we're constantly doing is sending out emails, like inviting people to come see the club meetings and just to see what Toastmasters is all about. So my question is, how do you encourage colleagues to be a part of Toastmasters? That's the first one. And the second one is, we also have people who have joined and attended meetings, but they just drop off suddenly. So we don't retain members. Like, I don't know how we can encourage them to continue with Toastmasters as well. Those who've already shown interest, they tend to drop off towards at some point, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Let me answer the first question where 17 is quite a good number if you yeah, if you have engaging meetings, so your target obviously is to grow to the minimum base, which is 20. So yeah, so that's your task at hand. I think what also helps in terms of making sure that members are engaged is, number one, you need to make sure that you prepare the agenda way ahead of time. The best time to prepare your agenda and to get speakers is at the tail end of your meeting, where you're actually saying, we are taking up role players for the next meeting and those that want to speak. And then by the time you conclude the meeting, you actually have your speakers lined up. And what I've also realized that helps is when you're part of a corporate club, if someone comes and does their presentation or their icebreaker or whichever project, as the president or the VP education, the next day, working day, do an email to them and congratulate them for delivering their speech. And then you copy other Toastmasters and you copy their immediate boss or even HR to say, you know, to include them in the conversation where you're saying, congratulations, Toastmaster Pemelo, what an icebreaker that you delivered, and you encourage them, and we can't wait for you to present your next project. So I've seen that it encourages people to continue pursuing their path, and it encourages people to attend subsequent meetings as well. So involve your HR, involve their bosses. They'll be inspired to be able to get involved. So I got a bit, what was your second question, if you don't mind coming again?
So the second one was in relation to those members or those employees and colleagues who have shown interest in Toastmasters and they attend meetings, but we don't retain them. Like, how do you retain them?
Okay, great. So when they come through as well, make sure that you have got a visitor spec that speaks to the benefits they can get from Toastmasters. So when a member comes, you know, your advantage is there within your corporate setup, you've got access to their email, send them the paths and how they can be able to benefit from that. So you can do an email to say, Toastmaster Mohobe, thank you for visiting our club. Here is more information about Toastmasters and how you can benefit. There's a PDF document that speaks to pathway and the various skills. I'll share with Lesedi that document. I think I've got it on my phone somewhere. It talks to the core skills that you learn from being a Toastmaster, and it speaks to the various parts as well. So that document will come in handy. And what you also need to make sure is when they come, give them a memorable show such that they will not want to miss the excitement. So how exciting your meetings are will also determine whether people will continue coming back. And like I said earlier on as well, time management. I've attended meetings where there are quite a number of visitors, and the first 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes, 1 hour, they are hooked. And then when the meeting starts dragging, you can actually see someone's body language changing to say, when is this thing going to end? And one of the challenges that I've also seen in terms of time management is your introduction. Normally the president opens up the meeting, and I've realized that quite a number of presidents make a lot of mistakes in terms of their opening becomes actually a 10 or 15-minute speech where they're trying to market Toastmasters and to talk about a lot of things at the same time. But when I'm chairing a meeting and I'm kicking off, I want to be done in 2 to 3 minutes and then hand over to the VPE. So as presidents, don't drag your meetings and your introduction into 10, 15 minutes, and it becomes actually longer than the scheduled speeches. So make sure that you're precise, you just generate interest, and then if someone wants more information, then the vice president membership can kick in and help that prospective member to come back and get more information. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It really does.
Great.
Manuel,
Yes,
you want
Manuel.
Thank you, Lesedi. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Joel, for this presentation. What you said is very, insightful, and it's very thought-provoking. I think it faces one to self-introspect in a way. So, and also the illustration was very clear, the cup and the spoon, it was very clear. But now, since we are in a in corporate, work takes priority. How do you deal with now situations where you are mostly swamped up with work and you can't barely break the schedule? How do you deal with that?
Okay, yes, definitely work is bound to come in the way. And like what you said, it takes priority. And so one way is obviously to make sure that your meetings are short so that you don't stay away. So you can always modify when the schedule permits and your schedule is 2 hours, you can have that meeting, but you can always customize to say maybe you are in reporting season or it's month end. You can always customize your meetings to make them shorter. Instead of having maybe 4 or 5 speakers, you can have 2 speakers and table topics, or you can just have table topics. And if it stalls your progression, maybe you've got a 2 months, 3 months busy period where during working hours you're not able to. So what you can do is actually take advantage of other clubs that meet during weekends, on Saturdays, on Sunday, or on a day that you are free. You can be able to carry on and embark on your project during those meetings, instead of you being stagnant and saying, for the next 3 months, I can't spare my 12 to 1 where we normally have our meetings, so I'm going to be stagnant for that period in terms of my Toastmasters progression. Look for other clubs. The schedules are out there. They are available within your area council, or your area director can be able to assist you in terms of that, where you can schedule your projects at other club meetings and you take advantage. There are some breakfast clubs. There are those that meet on Saturdays, some meet on Sundays. So you can be able to take advantage of those schedules and progress. What you don't want to do is to remain stagnant, because it becomes difficult for you to pick up. 2 months becomes 3 months, 4 months becomes 5, and before you know it, you're like, I'm too busy and I cannot be able to continue in my Toastmasters journey. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions? In terms of what Joel is saying about planning, I know in Florida, we all have a sheet that we use to plan all of our projects. Let's see if I can, something that Toastmasters does provide. So I want to show you guys how it works. Instead of, if you don't want to use a spreadsheet and you don't like numbers. So it looks like this. This is your pathway. It has all of your speeches and it has all of your dates. So this is something that you can use to plan when you want to do your speech and put dates, have an accountability partner to help you. So this also might help. So do we have any other questions? Mohube, you're saying I do. Do you have a question?
Yes, I can't find my hand.
Okay.
Greetings to everyone. I'm a little bit jealous of other pathways. I mean, innovative at heart, that is what I want to do. But I was thinking maybe there's a way where I can see all other programs where they are leading and compare on the skill strengths. So on this, on the website, it doesn't give you an option of looking at it and comparing, like you can open only one at a time. So because I'm from a technical background, I prefer innovative things. So, but still I want to compare with other pathways to see maybe I'm missing out or not missing out, so that I'm not undecided even though I've already chosen.
No, thank you for that. Okay, I've just found it. Let me share my okay. I'm just sending it to my email so that I can share it. That document that I was talking about, I'll also share it in the chat. So just bear with me while I try to retrieve it from my email. I've just sent it from my phone to my laptop. Just hold on.
In the comment, you guys suggesting that we have this session, another session, and we did speak. I did speak to Joel that we should actually make it a recurring thing where we check in and see how our corporate clubs are doing, and maybe open it up to everyone.
Yeah. So this, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So this document is what I was talking about. It talks about the 11 paths, and then these are the skills that you learn from. And then it goes into detail now, where you can look at each path. Dynamic leadership talks about effective coaching, the fundamentals. So you can actually engaging in humor. It talks about the skills that you're going to build, innovative planning. And yeah, so this document can actually help you in terms of your journey. So I'll share it to Lesedi, then Lesedi can distribute it to everyone who is on this call. Yeah, so it talks to, and it addresses the questions the way that Mohubi was asking in terms of comparing path.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Any feedback? Has this session been
Hi,
helpful to most
Lesedi.
Okay, yes.
Hi, Lesedi. Thank you so much for the resource that you shared in the chat. I wanted to find out, does a member then individually fill in the projects in their path, or is it downloadable specific to a certain path?
I think it's specific to a
The one that you
certain
shared is
path.
for persuasive influence.
Yes, it is specific to a certain
All
path.
right. Are you able to share the link where one can download? Okay, thanks. Are you able to share the link where one can?
I don't know. I don't remember the link, but I do have most of the pathways. So I'll just find it and then send it to everyone as well. But it is an individual one to the path.
All right, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And just for your information, the club growth director is also in the process of formulating a WhatsApp group for those members of corporate clubs. So a lot of information will be shared. I'll just follow up with him to make sure that we capture everyone who is in the corporate space. So it's going to be a resource center for clubs in the corporate sector. So the club growth director, Brighton, is working on that as well. But in the meantime, Lesedi will share the information. I'm sure, Lesedi, maybe you can type your number for the benefit of those that are not maybe within our space. You can just type your number and then people can get the requisite documents from you.
George?
Good evening, everyone. I just don't have a comment, such like a question. It's just to thank DTM Joel for this very informative, interesting, very important way of seeing things. I think it's actually motivating, and I wanted to write. Propose or just put a request, which I will formulate formally, to come down into our Division G and have a keynote speaking into some of our joint meetings that would be really focusing to motivating even more our corporate clubs. I think it is really very important and very interesting. Thank you very much for the opportunity that you're giving us. And thank you for the moderator. You two have done good work. Thank you. Actually, I just also wanted to comment on where to get information of the pathways. Just in the main Toastmasters page at Pathways, right at the home, you can actually see projects, paths and projects. There are details of all the paths and the projects that there are from level 1 to 5. And the main Toastmasters page site. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure Joel
Thank
will
you. I think we
come
can
to
take the last 2 comments before we close. And let people go. Savnola and Dompumelelo. Savnolia, and Nompumelo will be our last. Okay.
So my name is Savnolia of the MPS Toastmasters. So I joined Toastmasters this year around March, and I took on the role of being the VP. So it's kind of hard for me to balance between Toastmasters and my job because I need to find role players. I need to follow up on people who want to make speeches. Like, I need to follow up on their speech titles. I need to follow up on the Toastmaster of the day, like find out what the theme is. So it's kind of hard to balance everything. So I just want to find out from you how can I find that balance.
Okay, I think the audio there was not, but I think, okay, if I got you correctly, you are the VPE, and it's been a nightmare trying to chase people to take up their roles and to speak and to execute. I think probably what you need to do is to have a meeting with your club where you sit down and then you come up with a calendar to say, for this month, these are the role players and these are the expectations in terms of what they're supposed to deliver. And you lay out the groundwork to say, if you're the Toastmaster, please, can you come forward with the theme for the day? And if you're a speaker, you're supposed to have given your topic by a certain date. Sometimes a bit of tough love will also help, where you're actually saying, Lesedi, you're delivering a speech on Saturday. I want your topic by Wednesday. If I don't get a topic from you and nudge you on Wednesday morning, then I'll take it that you will not be presenting on that particular day. So I think you just need also, because at the end of the day, we are also volunteers. You don't want to enjoy your reign as a VPE. You want to enjoy it. So set a bit of ground rules that people should adhere to. Yeah, I hope that helps. But you can always reach out and we can be specific to your situation. And Nompumelelo.
All right. Greetings, everyone, and thank you so much for the presentation. My question is on motivation. How do you motivate yourself as a president where you feel like the club is not doing what it's supposed to do? And then how do you also motivate the executive team where everyone is feeling like a failure? Because I think at this point in my club, there is that feeling that we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we are losing members at the same time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, Nompumelelo. The key question is when you have taken up a role, you need to ask yourself, why am I in this role? What do you want to learn? And one of the key learnings that I've realized in Toastmasters is people will not always pull their weight. So what am I learning there is, how do I get the club out of the woods into a vibrant club? You are learning a vital skill in terms of crisis management. You are learning a vital skill in terms of motivational strategies. And the motivational strategy pathway talks to that, to say, how do you motivate people that are disengaged? So you need to take everything lying down and saying, okay, I'm in this scenario. What can I learn from this scenario? What can I glean from that scenario? And then engaging your executive. Sometimes it calls for you to go out of the formal setup and say, guys, let's go for a braai, or let's go for a cup of tea. And then you are just casual about it. So what you also need to do is to bring in a lighter side where you do life with people, like in line with our theme in District 74, a culture of caring. People don't care how much you know until they see how much you care. So you have to have that heart for people. If someone is going through a crisis, let's say they might not be coming to meetings because she's going through a bereavement and it's hard on her. But if I just look at statistics and say, why she has missed last week, she missed this week again, and I don't take time to find out what is going on in their personal space. Maybe they're having frustrations at work, they're having frustrations at home, in the community. Take time to speak to them one-on-one. Take time to have a social gathering where you can just meet over a cup of tea or a few drinks, and then you talk about life, you talk about different situations. That way you create a bond, and then you can share what you want to do in terms of your Toastmasters journey. I've put contacts there in the chat, and then we can be able to engage in that. But above all, lead with your heart. Have a heart for caring, and then people will be able to follow if they see that you are genuine, you are loving, you are caring. You're not just concerned about the dashboard, but you're concerned about those members and the executive becoming better versions of themselves. I think I'm done. I have to sign off, Madam. I think it's 7.
Yes, it is
Madam
7.
Lesedi, thank you for the opportunity. Yes.
Can you please take a picture before everybody leaves? Please turn on your cameras, people. But thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you for making the time. Hopefully this was a good session for everyone. Okay. Smile, people. Let's all show that we enjoyed ourselves tonight. Okay. Thank you. Just one more.
One more, okay.
But I will send an email. Okay, the last one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Lesedi. Thank you, everyone. It's been great. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night, everyone.